Family, let me tell you something straight from my heart. Life has a way of whispering lies to you, lies that say you're not enough, you're too broken, too weak, too far gone to rise again. But here's the truth, you've got what it takes. Deep down inside of you, God planted a power that no storm, no failure, no negative feeling can uproot. The enemy wants you stuck in shame and fear, but I came here to remind you, what's inside of you is greater than what's against you. Today, we're not just talking about surviving those dark moments. We're going to break free from them. We're stepping into the version of you that God already sees. By the end of this message, you're going to walk out knowing, without a shadow of a doubt, that you already have everything you need to win this battle within. When you look in the mirror, you might see the reflection of someone who's been through storms, disappointments, and moments where it felt like the ground was falling apart beneath your feet. Negative feelings have a way of sticking to our souls like heavy chains, whispering that we are not enough, that we're unworthy, that we can't possibly rise above the weight pressing on us. But the truth is, from the very beginning of your existence, before you even knew how to take a breath, God placed within you a power that no fear, no shame, no rejection can take away. It's easy to forget this when life keeps throwing blows, when you've heard people tell you you'll never make it, when circumstances scream louder than hope. You've failed more times than you can count. Something inside begins to believe that maybe they were right. You start to think you're ordinary, that your dreams were too big for someone like you. But what if I told you that nothing about you is ordinary, that deep inside your being, buried under layers of doubt and past mistakes, is a well of strength waiting to be unleashed? See, recognizing your inner power doesn't mean pretending you've never been hurt or denying that pain exists. It means knowing that even with the scars, even with the tears, there is something indestructible with it. You are not created by accident. You are not here by mistake. There is a divine spark, a calling, a gift inside you that was woven into your spirit before you ever opened your eyes to this world. And that power cannot be stolen. It cannot be destroyed. It can only be forgotten. And that's exactly what negative feelings try to do. They come to blind you, to make you forget who you are. When guilt weighs heavy on your chest, when fear tells you not to try again, when rejection makes you want to hide, those feelings are not a reflection of your true identity. They're smoke screens. They're illusions meant to keep you from stepping into your God-given authority. But authority doesn't disappear just because you doubt it. The king is still the king even if he doesn't feel royal in that moment. The queen still carries the crown even if her head is bowed low. Some of you have been walking around believing you're powerless because people in your past spoke words over you that crushed your spirit. Maybe you were told you were worthless, lazy, unlovable, or that you'd never rise above where you came from. But those words were never the final word. The final word was spoken long before those lies ever touched your ears. God said you are fearfully and wonderfully made. He said you are more than a conqueror. He said you are chosen, equipped, and set apart for a purpose. I need you to understand this. Your inner power doesn't show up only when life is perfect. It's not something you have to go out and earn by achieving success or pleasing everyone around you. It's already inside of you right now, in the middle of the mess, in the middle of the doubt, in the middle of the pain. The same power that has carried you through every hardship so far is still with you, still breathing inside your chest, still ready to lift you higher. Think about the times you thought you wouldn't make it, the nights you cried yourself to sleep, the moments where you wanted to give up, but somehow, some way, you made it to the next morning. That wasn't luck. That was power. That was resilience rising up from deep within you, a strength you probably didn't even know you had. And that same strength is still there, waiting for you to acknowledge it, to trust it, to let it lead you out of the shadows. But here's the thing. Recognizing that power means shifting how you see yourself. Negative feelings thrive on self-doubt. They convince you to measure your worth by your mistakes, by what other people think, by what you've lost. They tell you to look everywhere but within. But the moment you pause, breathe, and dare to look inward, you realize something. You have survived every battle you've faced up until now. If you were truly powerless, you wouldn't even be standing here listening to these words. The fact that you're here, still fighting, still breathing, is proof that there's a warrior living inside you. And this inner power is not just about survival. It's about transformation. It's the force that allows you to rise above circumstances that should have broken you. It's the voice that whispers, "Get back up," when you've been knocked down for the 100th time. It's the courage that pushes you to dream again after your dreams were shattered. And it's not just courage for your sake. It's strength designed to inspire and uplift others who are trapped in the same darkness you've known. See, when you truly recognize this power, you stop waiting for someone else to rescue you. You stop looking for validation in the wrong places. You stop thinking you have to change who you are to be worthy of love or success. You begin to understand that everything you need to overcome negative feelings and walk boldly into your purpose is already inside you. The tools, the wisdom, the resilience. It's all there, planted like a seed that just needs your belief to bloom, but recognizing it requires you to confront the lies. You have to challenge those inner voices that say you're not smart enough, strong enough, or good enough. You have to catch yourself when you start rehearsing your failures and start speaking life into yourself instead. Every time you choose faith over fear, every time you speak hope instead of defeat, you're watering that seed of power inside you. And eventually that power begins to grow louder than the noise of your doubts. And don't think for a second that power means you'll never feel weak or discouraged again. Power doesn't eliminate emotions, it redefines them. It allows you to feel fear but still move forward. It lets you cry but still believe in tomorrow. It whispers to you in the middle of the night when anxiety tries to suffocate your hope, saying, "This isn't where your story ends." That's why you've got what it takes, because no matter how deep the pit, no matter how dark the valley, the power inside you knows the way out. It's been guiding you since day one. You may have ignored it, doubted it, buried it under years of pain, but it has never left you. And the moment you choose to recognize it, own it, to let it rise to the surface, everything begins to change. Not because the world suddenly becomes easier, but because you finally see yourself for who you truly are. A force equipped to break through every negative feeling trying to hold you down. If you truly want to rise above negative feelings, you must understand this truth. Your mind is the battlefield where every victory or defeat begins. The emotions you feel, the heaviness that clings to you, the doubt that whispers in the quiet moments, none of that happens by accident. It is shaped, molded, and fed by the thoughts you choose to entertain. The way you think determines the way you feel, and the way you feel determines the way you live. Many of us believe feelings are something that just happen to us, as if they're uncontrollable forces sweeping in from nowhere. But feelings are not born in isolation. They are the offspring of thought. A negative feeling doesn't begin with emotion. It begins with an idea, a belief, a small seed planted in the mind that grows until it wraps around your heart. And here's the good news. If your thoughts are powerful enough to create pain, they are also powerful enough to create peace, joy, and victory. You see, the mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant will eventually take root and grow. If you constantly water seeds of fear, doubt, and insecurity, your inner garden will be overrun by weeds that choke out your confidence and drain your hope. But if you plant seeds of faith, strength, and gratitude, your life begins to flourish with courage and clarity. The difference between living overwhelmed by negative feelings or standing strong in your purpose is determined by what you allow to take root in your mind. Changing your mindset is not about ignoring reality or pretending challenges don't exist. It's about deciding what gets to have power over your spirit. Thoughts are like visitors knocking on the door of your mind. Some are there to uplift and guide you, while others are there to destroy you. Too often, we throw the door wide open to every destructive thought that comes knocking. We let them move in, rearrange the furniture of our minds, and dictate how we feel about ourselves and our future. But you have the authority to choose which thoughts you welcome and which ones you reject. That's why renewing your mindset is essential. Imagine your mind as a lens through which you see the world. If that lens is covered in dirt, past mistakes, other people's opinions, old wounds, you won't see clearly. Everything will look impossible, hopeless, dark. But when you begin to clean that lens, when you challenge every thought that tells you you can't, when you start replacing lies with truth, the entire picture of your life changes. The circumstances may be the same, but your ability to face them shifts because your perspective has shifted. Think about the moments when negative feelings took over. Trace them back and you'll often find a thought that started the spiral. I'm not good enough. They'll never love me. I always fail. Things will never change. These are not just passing words. They're powerful beliefs shaping how you see yourself and how you feel every day. The mind doesn't argue with you. It accepts whatever you consistently tell it. If you keep feeding it these destructive thoughts, your emotions will follow, and soon your actions will too. But imagine if you began to speak differently to yourself. Imagine if instead of rehearsing defeat, you rehearsed victory. Instead of replaying everything that went wrong, you began to visualize everything that could go right. Instead of believing you're broken, you began to affirm that you're built for something greater. The moment you change the conversation in your mind, your feelings start to shift, and with time, your life starts to align with those new beliefs. This isn't easy work. The human mind has been conditioned by years of patterns, experiences, and voices from your past. But understand this, conditioning can be rewritten. Every day you have the chance to reprogram your thinking, and you do that by choosing what you focus on, by catching yourself when negative thoughts creep in, and by deliberately replacing them with thoughts that speak life and possibility. Science tells us that our brain creates pathways, habits of thinking that become automatic. If you've been thinking negatively for years, those pathways are deep and well-worn. But just like a hiker who carves a new trail through the forest, you can carve new mental pathways. It takes repetition, persistence, and faith. But over time, your mind learns a new way of seeing and responding to life. You start to feel different because you've been thinking differently. And here's the divine part of it all. You're not doing this alone. God didn't give you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. That means you already have within you the ability to think stronger, clearer, and more purposefully than you've been thinking. But you must tap into it. Every time you meditate on His promises instead of your problems, you're rewiring your mind. Every time you speak words of faith instead of despair, you're shifting the atmosphere inside you. Some of you have been waiting for your feelings to change before you take action, but the truth is, your actions and your thoughts must change first, and then your feelings will follow. Feelings are followers, not leaders. They take direction from the dominant thoughts in your mind. If you want peace, think peaceful thoughts. If you want courage, focus on empowering truths. If you want to overcome sadness, fill your mind with gratitude and hope. Start observing your own thought patterns. Pay attention to the story you tell yourself when you wake up in the morning or when you fail at something. Ask yourself, would I speak these same words to someone I love? If the answer is no, then why do you allow those words to live rent-free in your mind? You deserve to treat yourself with the same compassion and encouragement you give to others. And remember this, negative thoughts will still try to visit you. You can't stop every storm cloud from forming, but you can stop yourself from building a house underneath it. When fear shows up, you can acknowledge it without surrendering to it. When doubt creeps in, you can recognize it for what it is, a test of your mindset, not a truth about your destiny. You can feel a negative thought without letting it take the throne in your mind. Your mindset is the gatekeeper of your emotions. Guard it fiercely. Don't let everything and everyone have access to it. Feed it with wisdom, affirmations, prayer, and reminders of who you really are. Train it like a muscle, because the stronger your mindset becomes, the weaker negative feelings become with time. The same situations that once crushed you will no longer have the same power because you've learned how to think differently, to see yourself not as a victim of life, but as the creator of your response to it. Fear has a way of creeping into the quiet corners of your life, whispering lies that sound so convincing you start to believe them. It tells you to stay small, to avoid risk, to silence your dreams before they ever have a chance to breathe. It convinces you that if you try again, you'll fail again, that if you love again, you'll hurt again, that if you step out in faith, you'll fall flat on your face. Fear is not just an emotion. It's a prison, one that locks you in the same cycles of worry and pain while making you believe that's where you belong. But there is something far more powerful than fear, something that doesn't just break the chains but destroys the very cage itself. Faith. Faith is not wishful thinking or blind hope. It's an unshakable trust that there is something greater holding your life together. It's knowing deep down that even when everything around you looks uncertain, you are not walking alone. Faith takes the power out of fear because it shifts your focus from what you cannot do to what God can do. Fear thrives in doubt, but faith thrives in trust. And when you truly begin to trust, fear loses its grip on your heart. Think about the moments in your life when fear had the loudest voice. Maybe it told you not to apply for that opportunity, not to speak up, not to take that leap of faith toward the dream that's been burning inside you. Maybe fear told you that you were too broken to ever be whole again. But despite every fearful thought, something in you still wanted to move forward. That's faith. It may have been quiet, buried beneath layers of anxiety, but it was there whispering, try anyway, move anyway, believe anyway. Faith doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's just a whisper, but that whisper carries more power than fear ever could, because faith connects you to a source that is limitless, a strength that doesn't depend on how perfect you are or how much control you think you have. Faith is knowing that God can make a way when there seems to be no way, that He can take what was meant to break you and use it to build you. Fear wants you to believe that your past defines you, but faith says your past is just preparation for where you're going next. And understand this: faith is not the absence of fear, it's moving forward despite it. Courage is not something that appears when fear disappears. Courage is born in the very presence of fear. Faith is what gives you that courage to take the first step when the path is hidden, to keep walking when storms are raging, to keep believing when nothing makes sense. It's trusting that every step, no matter how small, is guided by a hand that won't let you fall. Fear speaks to your weaknesses. Faith speaks to your strength. Fear points to everything you're lacking. Faith reminds you that you already have everything you need because one who created you has equipped you fully. Fear says, look at the size of the problem. Faith says, look at the size of your God. Fear focuses on obstacles. Faith focuses on possibilities. And the truth is, whatever you focus on grows stronger. If you keep feeding fear with your attention, it will expand and take control. But if you feed faith through prayer, through affirmations, through surrounding yourself with words and people that speak life, you will start to feel a power rise within you that fear cannot touch. Every great transformation starts with a decision to trust. Trust doesn't mean you have every answer or that you see the whole picture. It means you believe there is a higher plan even in the chaos. Some of the most powerful breakthroughs happen not because someone was fearless, but because they chose to believe in something bigger than their fear. When you decide to believe that you are divinely guided, that every setback is a setup for growth, that every closed door is a redirection towards something better, you strip fear of its ability to control you. There will be times when faith feels impossible, times when the weight of your struggles makes it hard to even whisper a prayer. That's when you need to remember that faith is not about feeling strong. It's about surrender. It's about saying, I don't know how this will work out, but I believe there is a way. I don't know how I'll find the strength, but I believe it will come. I don't know how healing will happen, but I believe restoration is possible. That belief, even when it's small and fragile, is enough to break the power of fear. Faith also transforms the way you see challenges. Instead of seeing them as punishment or proof that you're failing, you begin to see them as lessons, as opportunities to grow stronger, wiser, more resilient. You start to understand that fear is not a signal to stop. It's a signal that you're stepping into new territory, pushing past old limits. And faith is what allows you to keep going even when you're trembling, even when your knees feel weak, because you know the ground beneath you is solid even if you can't see it yet. There's a supernatural strength that comes when you lean into faith. The things that once overwhelmed you don't carry the same weight anymore. The situations that used to make you panic no longer control your peace. You start to feel a quiet confidence rising up within you, and knowing that you can face whatever comes, not because you're perfect or fearless, but because you are connected to something far greater than fear. Fear will always try to come back, knocking on the door of your mind, whispering its familiar lies. But faith gives you the authority to answer differently this time. Instead of letting fear dictate your steps, you begin to walk with boldness, knowing that you don't have to have all the answers. You just have to take the next step in trust. Fear will tell you it's too late. Faith says it's just the beginning. Fear will tell you you're alone. Faith says you've never walked alone a day in your life. Fear will tell you you're not ready. Faith says you've been prepared for this all along. Every time you choose faith over fear, you build spiritual muscle. Teach your mind and your heart that fear is not the final word. You remind yourself that your life is not limited by what you see in front of you, but expanded by what you believe within you. And as you strengthen that faith, negative feelings begin to lose their power because they can no longer control a mind and spirit anchored in trust and divine guidance. There comes a point where thinking, hoping, and even praying for change is not enough. You can hold the most powerful beliefs in your mind. You can speak affirmations every morning. You can dream of the life you want. But if you don't Take action, nothing shifts. Negative feelings thrive in stillness. They feed on hesitation, on those moments when you sit stuck between knowing you deserve more and actually moving toward it. Action is the bridge between where you are and where you're meant to be, and until you step onto that bridge, those chains of fear, doubt, and insecurity will stay wrapped around you. Action has a way of breaking the hold that negative emotions have on your mind. When you take a step, no matter how small, you disrupt the cycle of overthinking and self-sabotage that keeps you trapped. You cannot think your way into freedom, you must act your way into it. The moment you decide to move forward despite feeling scared or unprepared, you send a message to your entire being. I am not a prisoner to these feelings anymore. I am in control. So many people wait until they feel ready to take action. They wait for confidence to show up, for fear to disappear, for a perfect sign to fall from the sky. But confidence doesn't come first. Movement does. The act of showing up, of pushing past resistance, creates the very confidence you've been waiting for. Every step forward weakens fear's grip. Every attempt, even the messy and imperfect ones, chips away at the belief that you're stuck. Action doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as getting out of bed when depression tells you not to. Sometimes it's making a phone call you've been avoiding because anxiety says you'll fail. Sometimes it's choosing to go to therapy, to set a boundary, to walk away from something toxic. These might seem small on the surface, but each one is a spiritual declaration that you will not be held down any longer. Every small action is a blow to the chains trying to keep you from your purpose. Negative feelings are like shadows. They grow bigger and scarier the more you stand still, but the moment you step into the light of action, they begin to shrink. That's why movement is so powerful. When you act, you take your focus off fear and place it on possibility. You give your energy something to build on instead of something to tear down, and with each step you create momentum, a force that fear cannot easily stop once it begins to move. Many times we overcomplicate action. We think it has to be massive, life-altering, world-shaking for it to count. But freedom is not found in grand gestures alone. It's found in consistent, deliberate, daily decisions. You don't need to climb a mountain today. You just need to take one faithful step forward. If you do that enough times, you'll look back and realize you've crossed valleys and scaled heights you never thought you could. Taking action also rewires the messages in your mind. Every time you act despite negative feelings, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than your fear. You begin to create a new identity, not as someone who is trapped by emotions, but as someone who moves forward even when it's hard. The mind takes notice of what you do repeatedly. If you repeatedly freeze in the face of fear, it learns helplessness. But if you repeatedly take steps, no matter how uncomfortable, it learns resilience, adaptability, and courage. Action builds faith. When you move towards something that feels impossible, you create space for divine intervention. Doors begin to open, opportunities appear, resources you didn't even know existed suddenly cross your path. But none of it would have happened if you stayed still. God meets you at the point of movement. Miracles are often waiting on the other side of obedience to that small nudge in your spirit saying, go. And let's be honest, taking action won't always feel good at first. Your emotions might resist it with everything they've got. Fear will scream louder, doubts will rise higher, and you might even stumble along the way. But those stumbles are not failure. They're proof that you're breaking free from stagnation. Pain is not always a sign you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it's a sign that chains are being broken, that muscles of faith and courage are being stretched and strengthened. There's also power in relentless action. One step is good, but consistency is what transforms your life. Negative feelings may return again and again, but if you've trained yourself to keep moving, they can't stop you. You might feel anxious, but still send that email. You might feel unworthy, but still apply for that promotion. You might feel overwhelmed, but still show up to do what you are called to do. Over time, that consistent action builds a foundation of strength that emotions cannot shake. Action shifts focus from internal struggle to external growth. When you're stuck in negative emotions, everything becomes about the weight you're carrying. But when you act, when you serve others, pursue your calling, chase your vision, you lift your gaze from the storm within and see the bigger picture. Movement creates purpose, and purpose has a way of healing wounds that thinking alone never could. Remember this, you don't have to leap over every obstacle today, but you do have to take one step. A step toward healing, toward growth, toward building the life you've been praying for. That single step is more powerful than 1,000 intentions left undone. Each step taken while afraid is a victory over the very feelings that try to stop you, and action is contagious. When you take bold steps forward, you give silent permission for others to do the same. People around you see your courage, and it sparks something in them. They begin to believe that they too can rise, they too can push past fear, they too can overcome. Your movement becomes a testimony, a living reminder that freedom is possible. Ultimately, every chain that has held you, fear, self, doubt, shame, weakens when faced with action. You are not powerless. You are not stuck. You are not doomed to live in the same cycles forever. You have been given the ability to choose to act, to take steps even when every part of you feels weighed down. And with each action you take, no matter how small or hesitant, you are breaking free, rewriting your story, and stepping closer to the life you are meant to live. So many of us spend our lives trying to fix what's outside of us, thinking that if we could just change our circumstances, our feelings would finally shift. We believe that if we had more money, more recognition, a different job, a better relationship, or if people treated us differently, then peace and joy would finally fill our hearts. But that's an illusion. Chasing external solutions for internal battles only leaves you exhausted, because true freedom doesn't start out there. It begins within. Living from the inside out is the only way to rise above negative feelings and build a life anchored in unshakable strength. When you live from the outside in, you allow the world to dictate your worth. The opinions of others become chains around your identity. If someone praises you, you feel good for a moment. If they criticize you, you crumble. When life is going smoothly, you think you're doing well, but when storms come, your sense of value collapses. This way of living leaves you on an emotional roller coaster, constantly reacting to everything and everyone around you, never truly finding stability. But when you live from the inside out, you tap into a different source of strength. You stop basing your peace on external conditions and start drawing it from a deeper, divine well within you. It's not about ignoring the challenges of life. It's about refusing to let them control your spirit. When you understand that the power to overcome negative feelings resides in the core of who you are, and the part of you that God created whole and strong, you no longer need everything around you to be perfect before you can feel secure. Inside each of us is a quiet center, a place untouched by fear, pain, or rejection. It's the part of you that has survived every storm, that still whispers truth even when the world shouts lies. But most people never discover this inner strength because they're too busy trying to fix the outside. They think peace is something to be earned by controlling situations or pleasing people. Yet no matter how much you change on the surface, if you don't address what's happening in your heart and mind, negative feelings will keep finding their way back to you. Living from the inside out requires you to pause and turn inward. It means learning to listen to your own spirit rather than the noise of the world. This isn't easy because society constantly tells you to look outward for validation, to measure yourself by achievements, possessions, and social approval. But the truth is, you can achieve every outward goal and still feel empty inside if you've neglected your inner self. True transformation happens when you nurture that inner place of power and allow it to guide everything you do. This way of living shifts how you handle challenges. Instead of waiting for life to calm down before you can feel at peace, you begin to carry peace with you into every storm. Negative feelings may still arise, but they no longer have authority over you because you're rooted in something deeper than emotion. Think of a tree in the middle of a raging windstorm. The branches may sway and bend, but because the roots run deep, the tree stands firm. Living from the inside out is about developing those deep roots. Spiritual roots that hold you steady no matter how chaotic things get around you. And these roots are not built by pretending you're okay when you're not. They're built by facing your pain, by surrendering it to God, by allowing Him to heal what's broken inside you. Many people try to outrun their hurt by keeping busy or distracting themselves with success, but healing doesn't come from running away. It comes from turning inward, acknowledging what's there, and letting divine strength fill those empty spaces. Living this way also changes how you view yourself. Instead of seeing your worth as fragile or dependent on external factors, you begin to see it as unshakable because it's rooted in something eternal. You realize that no mistake, no rejection, no failure can diminish the value God placed inside you. You stop defining yourself by what happened to you or what others said about you, and you start defining yourself by the truth of who you are created to be. This inner alignment creates a ripple effect. When you're secure on the inside, your actions, decisions, and relationships naturally begin to change. You stop chasing things that drain you because you're no longer desperate for validation. You stop letting toxic people control your emotions because you know their opinion doesn't define you. You start making choices from a place of clarity and strength instead of fear or insecurity. This is how real freedom begins to unfold, not by changing everything outside of you, but by transforming what's happening within. And living from the inside out gives you resilience against negative feelings that used to knock you down. Fear, anger, sadness, and doubt may still come, but instead of drowning in them, you observe them without letting them consume you. You recognize them as temporary waves that cannot touch the core of your being. This inner steadiness is not about becoming numb or detached. It's about being so deeply anchored in truth that passing emotions no longer have the power to derail your entire life. To live this way, you must also practice self-awareness and intentional growth. It's about regularly checking in with your own mind and spirit, asking yourself what beliefs you're carrying, what wounds you need to release, and what truths you need to embrace. It's about daily choosing to nurture your inner world through prayer, reflection, gratitude, and positive input. The more you strengthen this inner foundation, the less dependent you become on external circumstances to feel whole. When you master living from the inside out, you also become a source of light to others. People are drawn to inner strength because it's rare in a world where most are controlled by outward pressures. Your calm presence in the face of chaos inspires others to seek the same grounding. Your ability to stay hopeful during dark times becomes a living testimony that peace and strength don't come from avoiding struggles but from being deeply rooted within. Ultimately, this way of life flips everything you were taught about happiness and security. You stop believing that fulfillment is something you chase and start realizing it's something you release from within. You stop searching for someone else to fix you and start realizing you've been equipped with everything you need to rise all along. You stop living as a reflection of your circumstances and start allowing your inner power to shape the world around you instead of the other way around.